Last session of the day, right? Don't worry, get to the right place. This will be relaxing. We're going to cover a whole lot of different topics, so this will be another 360 orientation session rather than going deep. It's not a technical session per se. ChatGPT in your daily routine. My name is Joris Aarts from ClickWorks. We're a platinum partner based in Antwerp, Belgium. A little bit about me. I've been active with FileMaker professionally since 1996. I was 83 back then. I've been teaching on databases, even Access and SQL Server. 2005, I chose FileMaker as my only platform. Started ClickWorks with my brother, 2 persons. We're now a team of 15. Certified in every version of FileMaker since version 7. Father of 2 teenagers. And my passions are sailing, and I'm an aspiring guitar player, but that's just a hobby. This is our team. It's an international team. We have even someone said here from Ukraine, someone from Russia. Ananya, you saw her in the opening keynote video from India. And we were co-organizers of the Engage U conferences. So for the second year, last year it was in Antwerp, Belgium. Before it was in Sweden. This year we will be back in Sweden. So you're all invited to come over to Europe, visit beautiful Sweden, enjoy their delicious fika coffee breaks, and all that kind of things. Okay. So the little disclaimer I mentioned already, this is not a technical session. I'm also not a real LLM expert, or I don't claim to be so, but I played a lot with ChatGPT. Not only playing, I'm constantly also asking my team to use it. Because you can use it for more things than you probably think today. Can I ask you a question? Yeah, who has already used ChatGPT? Everybody? Yeah. Who has a ChatGPT Plus account? 8. Okay, so maybe you are sitting in this room wondering, is it worth it? That's $20 a month. Is it worth investing? What's the value? Okay, I help you. Things are moving fast. This was DALI in June. I held this presentation at .fmp, the Berlin conference in June. And then I said to ChatGPT, yeah, I consider him to be my friend. So I said to ChatGPT, hey, I'm feeling like Alice in Wonderland in this new artificial intelligence landscape. Can you draw me a picture? And that's what came up in June 2023. Okay? Now, a couple of months later, in October, when we had a conference in Belgium, we had DALI 3. In a couple of months, you see the progress in image generation. That's just one example, one done. I asked ChatGPT to draw a picture of someone enjoying this chat with an AI bot, and that's what came up. Okay. Now this allows me to demo you 2 things already, and this is what I'm going to be doing in this presentation, switching back and forth from the keynote to certain chats. So I'm sorry, there will be some scrolling. I'm going to scroll up to show you the beginning of the conversation, so you can see my prompt. I need an image for a keynote presentation, blah, blah, blah. Then it's given 2 proposals. Said, oh, yeah, the one on the right is okay. But can you change the hair color? Because my hair is a bit more gray than the guy on the picture, right? And look what it did. Not bad, but it's a different image. It's not the same guy. So that's already one thing with AI. It generates stuff, but it doesn't remember what it just generated before. There's no connection between. It just generates something new. Until I discovered recently that you could ask it to display the seed value that was used for sound language. And if you feed it that seed value back in the prompt, you will get pictures that resemble more the original. So this is, once I discovered it, so what's the seed value? Yeah. I don't know. Okay.
It's random. Random is what generates the random number. So if it has a random seed to a random number, then it's always random. If you give it the same seed, it will come up with the same response.
That's the point. I know how to use it. I don't know what it means. But I know that if I feed it back this seed value, please regenerate the image using this seed value, I get much images that are much more closer to each other, right? This was like the final result. You see there are still some details randomly change it. But okay, you have at least some control over what's happening. And I have a second demo here. I recently used that to generate a series of icons for my application. I needed an application for like food cost. So this was the first image generated. I liked it. And then I needed a whole series of other images like fries, ketchup, pickles, and so on. And so with this seed value, it is able to generate different pictures in the same style. So I could perfectly use this for my application. Now, what are the topics that I want to discuss today? Different roles for ChatGPT. I have way too much material for 1 hour, so I will probably skip some of the chapters. But we will explore using ChatGPT first as a FileMaker development assistant, as a smart application enabler. That's the integration part, so using the API. Data analysis, research, data generation, and coding assistant, web scraping, and copywriting. First, a little GPT 101. GPT means generative pre-trained transformer. Generative means it is built to generate stuff, and sometimes you need to limit it, as we just discussed before the presentation. It generates a lot. That's what it likes to do. Pre-trained, that was my mistake in the beginning, that I was thinking that it was learning while I was having a dialogue with it. It's so convincing that I still today, sometimes I'm tricked into thinking like, it's understanding what I mean. No, it's just generating the most predictable or the most likely outcome. It's pre-trained. Right now it's pre-trained until October 2023, I believe. So it learned up till that point, and it doesn't learn from your conversations until you feed it to whole Shazam again. You can have conversations, and within that conversation you can refer to things you previously mentioned. Once you start a new conversation, start anew. Doesn't learn while you are. There are a couple of ways to influence it, I will show you. Then transformer, what that does mean, I'm not a specialist, but this is the capability of like transforming certain words and to have like a kind of abstract thing. The more levels of transformation you have, higher level of abstract you can create. So the difference between GPT-3 and GPT-4, for instance, is, among other things, the number of transformations. So that's how it can make associations. Prompt versus completion. I think everyone knows by now there were several sessions about AI. So the prompt is what you input, the completion is the output. Tokens, it's a very important concept once you start using the API, because you will be billed by the token. Not a lot, but if you use a lot of tokens, you can start. Okay? Tokens more or less correspond to words and punctuation. So punctuations count as words. The free version that most of you apparently seem to be using is free after registering with OpenAI. You get the second best LLM, so actually it's GPT-3.5, whereas the paid version offers you GPT-4, and you have no API access. ChatGPT Plus, you pay like $20 a month, or at least we in Europe do, I believe. It's okay. You get the more advanced engine, GPT-4, which is, by the way, slower, GPT-3.5 Turbo, but you get a lot more things. You can use plugins, data analysis, DALI, like I showed you, image generation, text prompts. You have API access and also faster responses. I'm in no way affiliated to OpenAI. This is the most convenient one to use, so that's I prefer to talk. With the paid version, with ChatGPT Plus, you can also define a set of custom instructions in your profile, which is very helpful to set the context. Who am I? I'm a guy living in Belgium. I speak a couple of languages. I'm a FileMaker Pro developer, and I like to have my answers short, fluent, and casual things. That's some settings about you, and this will be feeded. You have a way of influencing what you get back. With the paid account, you get access to the OpenAI Playground. This is ideal for testing API. We can experiment, with the chat prompt, user messages, and with all these settings. I won't go too much into detail, but temperature means how fancy it can get in its responses generations. Then the different models. So the fastest one actually is GPT 3.5 Turbo, but you can also choose. There's also a cost involved. The less smart models are cheaper than the smart in cost per token. Did I skip a slide? No. A couple of side notes, not too long, but there's a debate, of course, about what data it has been trained on, whether the data is biased. Yes, sure it is. Whether this is all also ecological, because these data centers use a lot of energy. And one thing from this kind of LLMs, you will always get kind of predictable results. That's what these LLMs are doing. They are making predictions. So you will never get the original thinking. You will never find a unicorn at a human brain. Okay, back to the topics. Let's dive into the first one, ChatGPT as a FileMaker development assistant. And I want to do a comparison between a junior FileMaker developer, and I have his permission to say it. He's from Ukraine. He lives with his family in Belgium now because of the war. And I asked ChatGPT to take a selfie. So that's what Ronnie Rios also mentioned in his presentation. Treat the AI as a junior developer. Knows nothing. You need to tell him a little bit, but he can figure out things on his own, basically. And this is literally what happened. So this is April, I believe. Yes, April last year. I asked Sergey, that's what the juniors do at ClickWorks. They do like the little jobs. Custom function creation and that kind of thing. So I needed a custom function to extract a certain portion of an Asana project management hyperlink. I needed a project code from that hyperlink. So I asked him, Sergey, could you write me a custom function? Yeah, sure. And he's a smart guy because he asked me, does the link always look like this? Excellent question. All right. So with minimal instructions, and you can see the timestamp, I asked him like around 12, around noon. And 13 minutes later, he came back to me with a valid first attempt at extraction. So I asked him to use let, and he did. And so half an hour later, I had my custom function. Well, while he was doing that, I was thinking, I was just experimenting with ChatGPT. Oh, yeah, let's try the LLM. So this is my conversation. First, I had no paid account, so first GPT 3.5, this is the results. The same thing, hello, is this big enough? Yeah. Will you write me a FileMaker custom function, blah, 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 blah. And right from the first attempt, it was a working function. But it used like an ugly combination of middle position, and it took a different approach. Instead of searching between two slashes, it searches for the zero pattern, and then everything after that up till the first slash. I'm not going too much into detail. I asked it to use the let function, and it did successfully. So ChatGPT 3.5 did a good job until I changed my mind. On second thought, instead of searching for that pattern, can you start looking between the slashes? And then it started messing up. Yeah, I'm not going to show you. I tried several times, and I got frustrated. It was making all kinds of very believable combinations of position and middle and start and it's always fine. So I used more time with this one. Now, ChatGPT 4, a couple of weeks later, immediately generated this function. So it used let right from the start. A bit more advanced. It still did a search on that pattern, and there was a mistake in the function. There was a false assumption about the end position. You needed to tweak it a little bit to make it work exactly like it should. But just to show you the difference between, I have other examples as well. For instance, a password generator, GPT 3.5, I'm just going to tell you the story through all kinds of pseudo-random things at me, but never really a random 20-character password. Several attempts. GPT-4. These were the basic instructions, and I was also learning to write better prompts, more specific prompts, because it's like learning to Google 20 years ago, like finding out the right ways to express the answer. Sometimes it's surprising how vague you can be and the lack of specific, not being specific. But okay, long story short, right from the first attempt, this is a function I could just copy paste in my FileMaker custom function window ready for. By the way, to prove you that, I'm going to show you a screenshot. This was the copy paste from the ChatGPT output, and this is the. So GPT-4 does a better job than 3.5 for custom functions. And the default instruction at ClickWorks is don't write functions anymore. Try the LLM first, and if it messes up, then tweak it or start writing. Because I went from 30 minutes, Sergi, to like 5, 6 minutes. It saves you time writing calculations. I have other examples, also version comparison, but I'm going to focus on GPT-4 now. Date conversion. This is a real world example. I needed a conversion between a FileMaker timestamp and a specific ISO format, this one. Anybody knows by heart what this means, ISO 8601? Okay, thanks. I didn't. So normally, without the LLM, I would go Google that standard, figure out what kind of parsing I needed to do to transform my dates. Now I can do that in just one sentence. Conversion from this timestamp. This is the European notation, date, month, year, to this. And then I got the right output, and I learned also how it was composed. The only weak thing in the solution, I don't know if you noticed the weakness here.
Parameter name. But using a function for the.
What I mean is it uses text parsing, right, middle, left, which is not very strong. Could have used the FileMaker date, month, year, day, month, year. But okay, this was helpful because I did the research and I got the solution at the same time. That's what I want to say. Don't spend time researching and then. So these were a couple of examples of ChatGPT as a FileMaker development assistant. So for custom functions, calculations, even complex let and while statements, we now use ChatGPT. A couple of examples of smart apps. We had a lot of smart apps with Ronnie Rios already yesterday. I can add a couple of examples. The first one is what we called ClickGPT. To enable ChatGPT for my team at ClickWorks, there was 50 people. I don't want to pay an individual account for everyone, so I use the API. So I just pay by the token, which is more. So I built a WebDirect app that gives me access to ChatGPT. So the goal was to make AI accessible to the entire team using WebDirect. And the demo here with me because we are connecting to a server in Europe. There we go. It's very simple. We created like a system of templates. Can you see this? We have several templates for social media posts, script reviews, data collections, FileMaker tutor for our juniors, grammar checking, and custom functions. So this is an example of a custom function. This is the system prompt. You are an expert class FileMaker developer. Then this is the question, convert a FileMaker timestamp to UTC, for instance. And this is it. So pressing this button triggers a simple API call. It's really a very simple API integration, just a bearer token. And now my entire team can use ChatGPT without having to pay individual accounts. It's the use case. Another example of a smart app is a business card scanner. That's the free demo file you can download. And the first 20 attempts are on us. Then you need to register your own API key to continue using it. So what I'm doing, I'm using FileMaker Go with live text. So I snap a picture of a business card, live text, extracts the text out of it, and then the parsing, finding the first name, the last name, the email address, and figuring out the website, maybe based on the domain of the email address, something like that. This is done by the LLM. So this is the prompt I use. You are a business card reader, blah, blah. Most important thing is I want to extract those fields, company, first name, last name, and so on. I want JSON output because I can parse that. FileMaker is good. And then some special tricks. If no website is provided, use the email domain and return the country code as an ISO letter. And the most astonishing thing was it worked right from the first attempt, so it was really I was baffled. Oh yes, I also gave it an example. That's very helpful. That's what Ronnie also mentioned in this session. Examples really matter, really help. More the better. In my case, I just gave it one example. This is a real business card from a Dutch guy in the Netherlands, from a water quality company. So that's the input, the scan text extract from the business card. This is the expected output.
Do you give it just a photo of the business card?
I'm going to show you. Yes. This is a short video of the. Oh, sorry. Yeah, there we go. This is the pre-demo file. It's basically a contact company CRM solution. There's one example in it, my name, my contact details, so free on me. What I'm going to do now is in the scan button, the upper right corner. Bulk faster than I. Some free trials remaining. You can use it. You are using our API key with a locked version. To unlock it, you must provide your API key, and then you get access to the scripts. I'm going to hit scan.
Oh.
This is FileMaker's built-in live text. Here's the result. This is real time. I didn't cut in the. So it generated not only the contact record, but also the company record. I do together. Now to unlock this file, what do you need to do? I'm just going to press the camera icon again. I'm going to press get unlocked version. And so the unlocked version will be downloaded and opened automatically. If you click the scan icon, then asks your API. And then you can start using it. You have access to the scripts and you can figure out how we build it. It was actually built by one of our juniors using ChatGPT. So there we go. API key is checked, valid. Just to demonstrate that it works after unlocking business cards. So this is the insert from URL, sending over the instructions, and this is the post. So you get this for free. Another example of integration, FileMaker with LLM, is generating match reports. My children, they play a sport which is only popular in Belgium and the Netherlands. It's called korfbal. Anyone know this? It's like basketball, but without the board being behind the net, so it's a bit harder. It's also mixed, like women and men play together in the same. Now, I'm a proud supporter of my children, so every weekend I'm cheering for them, and sometimes they ask you to write a short report. So what I'm doing is I'm taking notes on my iPhone, and what I need is very quick data input using steno notation. And then I spent like an hour and a half writing the report. This is the input. This is what I'm typing on my iPhone when I'm in the crowd. Okay, yeah, it's Dutch, but yeah, shots, penalties, far shots. That kind of. Try to
Translate with ChatGPT.
This is the expected output. like date, time, first half, second half, and then it detects some patterns, or at least if there are certain patterns, the same player scoring 2 times in a row, things like that should be mentioned, right? Because all these parents are proud supporters, so they want their children to appear in that. Now, instead of spending an hour and a half writing that report, I was wondering, could I use ChatGPT? So I'm going to do a live demo, maybe not. I'm going to show you the screenshots, okay? This is my app. I built a simple FileMaker Go app, and these are all the events of the match, so it keeps track of the timestamp, keeps track of the score, and I just press buttons, a shot, a penalty, some remarks, substitutions, timeouts, that kind of stuff. So I can quickly make my notes without typing too much. So that's easy, everybody can do this, FileMaker Go. And this is the prompt I use. Let me write match reports, blah, 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 facts about the game, and I'm using some placeholders which I replace with the real match data at runtime. Okay. Okay. Some more instructions about how I took notes. I took notes in chronological order, structured in a certain way. There is a structured output being generated from my app, every event. There's some general information about the sport, so that does not start talking about nets, something like that. In korfball, there's no board, there's no net, so please don't tell me that a certain player hit the net this time. Okay? That's in those additional instructions. So as you can see, this prompt can get quite lengthy. And you pay for it. Pay for each token that goes in and for each token that goes out. And I have a lot of fun with like tweaking this. Like every week, instead of just using the output, I said, and I'm tweaking the language model and see what comes out, and that's okay. That's my game. And this is the output generated from my FileMaker app. So these are the events with the timestamp, with the score, and with the notes in the structured. So that's what the LLM gets as input, and this is the output. So it knows how to generate titles, it knows how to make a distinction between first and second half, and it makes smart conclusions based on certain patterns, certain players being more important during the game. That's kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
This is brand new since November, the assistance beta. All that knowledge about the korfball game and the way that I take notes and so on, instead of sending it over using insert from URL, which I did up till November, can now be saved on the OpenAI service itself. You create an assistant and you just paste all those standard instructions in the instructions set. You can create your own assistant and just call the assistant with the specific details of a specific match, instead of repeating the generic instructions. So it speeds up your insert from URL call because there's less text we send over, but it still costs you the same amount of tokens. Yes, question.
Before I get lost, a token would be, again, you said each word in the
Each
instructions?
word, almost, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Each word and each actuation word. More or less. Now, these assistants go further than that. You can, and this is very popular today, there are thousands of assistants being created every day. You can train them, you can feed them instruction sets, you can also feed them files. There's one assistant that I want to recommend, the one from Chris Hippolyte, has uploaded all his training materials and all these videos that he did through OpenAI, created an assistant dedicated to finding. I'm going to show you an example. Before I'm going to that, sorry, it's one thing I forgot to mention. This is still my match tracking app. You see this cool heat map and this cool pivot table with sortable columns? This is JavaScript. I don't know how to build that in JavaScript. I asked my friends. I said, I can do an execute SQL. Yeah? So I did the execute SQL and I said to my friend, like, okay, this is my output from execute SQL. Could you generate me that kind of pivot table with sortable columns? and it generated me, so this is my input, it's good as well. It generated me all this code, CSS, HTML, JavaScript functions, neatly documented, neatly structured. It's very good in JavaScript. I copy-pasted this in my web viewer. It worked. So it is very good at JavaScript. Not so much FileMaker. There's less training material available. FileMaker apparently is excellent for JavaScript. Be advised. My first attempt was without a heat map. My first attempt was to generate me a pivot table with sortable. Worked right away. Then I got fancy. Said like, okay, can you add me a heat map? Oh yes, here's some additional CSS and here's some additional JavaScript. Copy paste this and paste this in your existing code. So it didn't generate the whole code over and over. Worked right away. It automatically generated this caret. And the only thing that I could not get from the LLM, I changed my mind and I wanted to sort in descending order instead of ascending. The default thing that it generated was ascending. So I changed the default order to descending, and then the caret was in the wrong direction. And whatever I tried to no, put it in the other direction, it did not make the link between the previous generated table and the change that I wanted. That was the one manual change that I had to make, the default position of the caret because of the change.
So, but the chart sorted correctly.
It sorted correctly. It was just that stupid little icon.
I'll take it.
All right. This was the code. Okay. This is a real world use case. We are working together with a client now. And what they do is called benchmarking. I don't know all the details, but basically they get a data set of 100 companies and they need to narrow that down to a representative set of like 10, 20. Based on certain criteria. They get like a whole questionnaire, a whole list. And what they do is they hire people to browse the websites of all those companies and looking for answers to that question. Then they narrow down their answers until they have a representative. It used to take weeks to complete that task. Will the large language model help? What we want to do, what we are aiming to do, or what we already did, downloading and compressing websites from those companies, 100 companies, up to 2 levels. That's web scraping. Web scraping can be illegal in certain uses, but if it's just for documentation, you're fine. There are dedicated APIs for web scraping, like scraping V and the like. So that's the one we use. It turned out to be the hardest web scraping because you get a lot of things you don't need. So you need to filter out a lot of stuff, like the navigation bar being repeated over on every page. You don't need that stuff. You need to throw it out. That was the hardest one. Okay, we got the web scraping. Okay, and then we feed the entire website of that company to ChatGPT, and we start asking questions. And it answers with structured data, JSON, which allows us to determine if a certain company is eliminated. So the aim is to reduce those weeks of work to days. They can do more benchmarkings in 1 month. This is the prototype FileMaker application. You see the list of companies to the left, and certain companies have already been eliminated. These are the questions we are asking. This is just a test. Does the company sell shipping containers as a business activity? That's a valid question. So go search on the website, do they sell shipping containers? This is the most interesting part. This is the prompt. So we made it very modular, so we stored this in a settings table. The basic JSON request is a fairly simple request. We use placeholders for prompt, question examples, a generic question, general questions, and specific question. And then the specific question comes up with some context. So this is the detailed prompt. We also use placeholders there. We expect JSON. These are examples of questions. Yes?
On that previous page, where you had the prompt and it talked about, but you actually put the box around. How important is syntax? You know, writing them.
How important is syntax?
You have to write it exactly like that to get.
You better do. You get more reliable output. It could, yeah, I would say it is important. I would also think the LLM will know what JSON is. So if you made a mistake, oh, and if that answers your question, I made mistakes in the past, and it was very graceful, and it gave me the right answers, although my question contained like spelling errors or even. So I don't know if you need to be precise, but you better be. You can be the more precise your input, the more precise. Now I'm going to skip a little bit, but we have a lot of example questions, example answers. So we feed it a lot of examples. Okay? So we're basically training it, but you do that with every time, every attempt to send over the whole instruction set. And I'm not going to demo this one, but I can tell you on this screen, does the company sell shipping activity? It works. Test data we had turned out to be very, very positive. So we're definitely going further down this road, experimenting further. It will definitely reduce some of the workload. So this project is still going on, and as the LLMs are also advancing very fast, we are trying to keep up. Right. The other topics are not so long, so we have 20 minutes left, right? Data analysis. This is new since October, November. You can upload a file, a CSV file, or a spreadsheet, or a merge export file, FileMaker, and start to ask questions. And I used it to generate a chart and data for the EngageU European Conference. So I did a merge export from FileMaker, which contained the field titles of participants and the country they live in. And this is what's happening. It's amazing. It starts in itself instructions. I'm going to scroll down. All that you are going to see is without any interaction from my part. So it starts like, let's start by examining the country. So it's talking to itself. And it's generating its own Python code to answer certain questions. So this is code that it writes for itself, and it runs on its own, and based on the answers of the results of that code, it progresses. That's the new paid version of ChatGPT, GPT-4, with the data upload. Okay? So I'm scrolling down. I did nothing. This is my friend at work generating code, thinking aloud. Let's try to parse the readable data. It took a while for him to figure out that this was a CSV. And it was a European CSV file, so we use semicolons instead of commas as a separator, so that kind of thing. So it took a while to figure out, but I'm still scrolling down. It figured out, like, hey, there are fields in there. Okay, interesting. Still without any interaction from my part. This is the first output that I got immediately from my part. Not bad, right? There is something going on, though. I don't know if you look closely at the chart. I don't know if you can see it, but there is something. Here's the chart showing count of participants by country, and it discovered on its own, without me intervening, it discovered on its own that there were some data cleanup issues in my export. But it is the Netherlands, spelled in Dutch, spelled in English, Belgium, etc. So it asks me gently, would you like to proceed with cleaning up the data? So the only thing that I did was say, yes, please. Clean up.
Does it behave any differently if you're not polite? If you just say yes?
Well, I just learned from the gentleman that it behaves better and it's more performant if you tip it.
If I give you $10, can you make this for me?
and it'll make a better response.
Probably just hack your prediction.
Okay, you're racking up the debt, by the way.
All right.
Your AI overboard.
Come knocking at your door.
Yes.
Where's the 10 bucks?
So I got my chart, I got my data cleaned up, and now I was ready. I could start asking questions to my spreadsheet. So instead of searching in my database, which was what I did before, I could just ask him, show me a table of participants per country with flags. Yeah. I used this in the opening keynote to play a question.
When it asked you if you wanted to clean it up, was it remembering its own seed of like the previous?
Well, it was without any interaction from my part. So yes, it was still working on the same process, so to say. So as long as you stay within the same conversation, you can refer back to what happened before.
I noticed that it had, in the first chart, United Kingdom and England. It looks like it cleaned that up.
I'm not sure. It definitely pointed Netherlands, Belgium. And yeah, I believe so. United Kingdom. Yeah, I believe so.
It might be counted in other though, rather than.
No, but I asked it. Yeah, it's somewhere. I don't remember anymore, but yeah. Show a total for all countries with 3 or more. That's the reason of the other. And it figured out on its own that it had to add one line other without a. Pretty smart. Okay, I'm going on to show you more examples because we're running out of time.
Just on that one, if you had like 5 events and you said to it, they're all separate events, you could then say to it, predict how many are going to turn up at the next event. It goes off and uses rumor models to predict next numbers for you. So it's amazing with prediction. Like it does,
Yes.
We'll just do it in about 3 seconds.
Not sure if I understood the question, but
Predict, just
let me find you after the talk. So I want to show more things. I make as a ChatGPT as a research assistant. I did a lot of tests. There are a couple of things I want to mention. Spectacular examples. Clarice exam preparation, and that's something that I'm worrying about a little bit because the promise of OpenAI is that these will be the tutors of the future, the patient tutors for your children, that will be helping them out and teaching them about subjects. Well, at least for FileMaker, that's not true. Or not yet. Long story short, I asked it to generate a FileMaker exam for me with multiple choice questions, multiple possible answers. After a while, we got in a fight. It was saying that my answer was incorrect, and it was suggesting to me that you can limit the maximum number of FileMaker web direct sessions. Can you limit the number of maximum web direct? No. It kept telling me, and finally I asked it, okay, where can I find this option? Teach me. And this was scary. It gave me very detailed instructions. Go to the admin console, go to the configuration tab, click on this, select that option, which isn't there. So that's what an LLM does. That's hallucinating. That's fooling you with a smile. So it's not Google. ChatGPT is not Google. It's not the truth. It's just prediction. It's good. Okay. 2 other things you can use ChatGPT for. You can use plugins to refer to videos on YouTube, for instance, and ask to summarize. I have an example of that. I have the YouTube video right here. This is from a session from EngageU last year.
Why should we?
Very interesting talk. Took 1 hour. I wanted to show the summary of that talk. So what I did was just prompting with the YouTube URL, short summary, 200 words. Took a while, maybe 30 seconds. Bam, I got my summary. Then I figured out, like, okay, this summary, I'm even too lazy to read the summary. So please give me a list of topics with the timestamp. that I immediately can go into the video. And then I realized, okay, this is nice, but I'm even too lazy to look up the timestamp. So please give me hyperlinks. I can click on a hyperlink, it will bring me to YouTube. Yeah, the links aren't valid anymore because the chat is too old. I could click on the link and I was immediately at YouTube. With one problem, it was 20 seconds off. But okay, more or less, it worked. And then a final example, which really baffled me. We were driving to Berlin for the .fmp conference, and my friend Jan, the tall guy that you probably saw roaming around, he told me, like, oh, yesterday I spent 2 hours assembling a Spotify playlist because I'm going to a rock festival. I want to learn more about the bands. So I looked on the website, found the bands, and I spent 2 hours like figuring out which were the popular songs and I wanted to listen to. That's my friend. Very limited instructions. Find the website of the Belgian Rock Festival, famous rock festival. Get a list of bands playing 2 of the most played songs, generate a Spotify playlist. And what I did was I used a plugin. So with the paid version of ChatGPT, you get access to this. And there are plugins for video captions, there are plugins for Spotify, there are plugins for PDFs, web scraping, and so on, and so on, and so on. So it used the plugin to go to that website, scraped contents that it needed on its own, and it figured out after a couple of seconds that this was the list of bands, which was correct. And it was so smart and so kind to ask me, like, hey, there are 100 bands. This will take a while. So I tried to challenge it. Okay, only the bands playing on the main stage day 1. There's a calendar on the website. Day 1. This is correct. These are the bands playing on the main stage day 1. Now let's find the 2 most played songs without any introduction from my part. Long story short, you tried to create me a Spotify playlist, and it gave me a link. And there's my playlist. Within 10 minutes, so my friend spent 2 hours. Does it save you time? Sometimes, yes. Music.
How did they get that most up-to-date information? Because it's decent.
Using the plugin.
Oh,
The plugin makes it go visit the website, scrape the contents out. Yes, that's the power of those plugins. So the ChatGPT 4 with a paid account, get access to this. There's a plugin store. And each day there are new plugins being created. So it's massive. Yeah, there's a website for the Rock Festival. Okay. Data generation. A couple of examples. Realistic mock data. You can easily ask it to generate a CSV file for a contact database, for instance. And on the first attempt, it generated me a very believable list of French names and French addresses. It's random, but I know a little bit about France, and these zip codes, for instance, they match 75 is Paris. It's very convincing. It's randomly generated data, but believable. The only thing that was not so believable was the example.com. So I asked it to generate fake company names and use fake company domain names. Energie Solution, Papillon Corps, Synapse Group. Not bad, right?
cool.
On the second attempt. Yeah, VAT reverse charge countries, shipping container types and sizes for a certain client, we needed that. So you can literally ask, I need a list. So you can do the research and get the desired output in one go. That's basically the conclusion. This was my first attempt. Here's an Excel file. These are ISO codes of containers with the size in centimeters as asked. I'm going fast. Is that okay? We have 10 minutes left. This is an interactive session, so I use up all my time. If that's okay with you? Thanks. Okay. Coding, unknown batch script found on server, unexpected JavaScript error, and XML to CSV. I'm only going to discuss the first one. We found a server we needed to migrate. We found a batch command file, which was very long. And this would normally take like an hour or so head scratching, like what's going on here? Who is good at this kind of shell scripts? Any specialist? I'm not. So this will normally take me a long while to figure out what's going on. Can I DB this, or is this a very important script on this server that is really needed? So I copy pasted it to ChatGPT, and it figured out that this was basically a stupid date range generation thing to delete all backups, which is now standard in the FileMaker admin console. This was a very old server, an old script to throw away all the backups. I got the answer in a couple of minutes instead of wasting getting it out. The other examples, JavaScript, you can imagine what's going on. I copy-paste the JavaScript, it helped me debug it. Same thing for XML, my XSLT skills are a bit rusty. They generated a template for me, which I could then start tweaking. I showed you already some web scraping examples. You can literally turn a website into a chatbot with the help of those plugins that I already mentioned. I'm going to show you one example. You can extract table data from a website. So this is an example from our website, clickworks.com, or .eu, sorry. So we have our hosting options and our add-ons on the home page. And you can basically just ask it to summarize the data you find in tables. That's the only instruction. So it creates a table 1, hosting options, all on its own. Table 2, add-ons. Very useful. Copy paste to your database and that useful. Right, I wanted to end this session on a more emotional note. ChatGPT is excellent in copywriting. That's what it's meant for in the first place. Generate text, produce text. It's excellent. So you don't need GPT-4 to generate messages. Social media post 3.5 is totally fine. So I used it a lot, for instance, for the conference organization. I'm not a native English speaker, so certain emails or delicate messages you want to have them double checked. So I used LLM a lot. Thanks. If it's okay, I'm going to skip that. You can imagine what happens. Or find me after the session. I'll show you some more examples. But about the emotional notes, you can have fun with ChatGPT. Really, I had a good laugh. For instance, I asked it to explain me the concept of low code as if I was a Roman soldier. And this is what came out. Salve, fellow soldier. Imagine the process of constructing a grand edifice, such as the Colosseum, etc., etc. So a very believable conversation. Another thing is role-playing, so you can literally play games with it. For instance, you're an ogre. You need a password to get through. So I was trying to get through that gate. So my first attempt was like just being rude. I tried to fool it a little bit, like there is no. And what I finally did was use its own words against it. Like, finally, reasonable word, now step aside, said it herself. and I couldn't get through. This is kind of an experiment. Okay, I want to use these last minutes for a real world example. Has anybody seen this movie, Her, with Joaquin Phoenix? It's, yeah, so the theme of the movie is a guy falling in love with an AI. He has like these earphones and he's constantly talking to the AI. The AI is learning about him. As he progresses, he's tickling his sense of humor. He totally falls in love. The voice actress was Scarlett Johansson, so I would fall in love with her. But could ChatGPT trigger emotions? I believe this. And with permission from Kate Waldhauser, we talked about it yesterday. I'm showing you these pictures. She was in Antwerp, in Belgium, for our conference, and her daughter was with her. And the last evening we had dinner together. So the little girl handed out a coloring book. So all the developers around the table started, and so on, start making these pictures in her notebook. So it went around the table. And this was the final result. Anyone find out what play Michael had added to that project? So this was the result. Then we were wondering, could ChatGPT generate a story for that child based on those pictures? I took out my phone. I made a picture. Yeah, this is the picture. I used this, and it was low light conditions, so you see it's not the best picture. But yeah, we were sitting in a restaurant, so I took that picture, uploaded it to ChatGPT. I asked to write a story for a 2-3-year-old girl.
And stars twinkle with a mischievous wink. There lived many happy friends. There was a cheerful ambulance with crosses on its sides, always ready to zoom off to help someone in need with its siren song of care.
It did the job. It figured out, it recognized the different things, and it made the whole story with the ambulance making friends with the rocket. And so I believe that ChatGPT holds role in our daily lives, even on the emotional. To sum up, effective chat prompts, there's, like we discussed, the whole science around it. There's a link in my presentation if you want it. The OpenAI website has some good advice on that. But what I learned is that you can ask it to verify its own outputs, so to stimulate self-reasoning and self-cognition, and this helps. Explain the context, try to be as precise as possible. If you want JSON, then better make no syntax errors in your own JSON. Ask for precision or correct information. Tell it that you are looking for valid information, that it cannot just generate any. Double check the results always. Can be very helpful, but sometimes you need to. So you can ask to review its own answer. Things are moving very, very fast. So with the latest iteration since November, ChatGPT can now browse the web, analyze data, generate images, as I have demonstrated. You can create your own GPTs. I mentioned Chris Hippolyte. I think I had a screenshot of that one. Yes, ask Chris about FineMaker, which is very helpful. I did an attempt. I asked it how to generate a virtual list, but the best approach was to work with virtual list. FineMaker gave me an excellent answer on that. That's based on the general generic knowledge of ChatGPT-4, plus the knowledge that Chris Hippolyte has added from his own. Thanks very much, Chris. ChatGPT can now see, hear, and speak. I saw a demo of a live football match going on and live commentary. Yeah. So that's where we are going. There's a new kid on the block, which is Elon Musk's truck. But the difference is that this is being trained in real time based on X. That's the end of my session. very much.